Good evening and welcome to Georgia 12 tonight. I'm John Stone, Republican candidate for the 12th Congressional District here in Georgia. Thank you for joining us, and for those who are joining us for the first time, if you have a question or comment you'd like to make with tonight's webcast, you can send it with John at johnstoneforcongress.com if you're using email, or Facebook or Twitter. We have this broadcast each weeknight, Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock. And immediately following the webcast, it's uploaded to our website in instant replay format. So if you can't make it at 9 o'clock, fine, send your question, send your comment. We'll try to address it on the show, and then you can watch it at your convenience whenever you can get in front of your computer. Tonight we're going to center on one topic in particular I've got a lot of feedback from today, and I really want to address this specific issue because it's something very timely that's going to occur tomorrow. Today, Heritage Action for America is putting together a letter in support of Representative Mark Meadows, who has a letter demanding that we defund Obamacare as part of this year's appropriations battles. In that letter, they're asking all members of Congress to sign. Roll Call magazine is following this very, very carefully of which representatives will back the effort, which won't. This follows on the heels of Senator Mike Lee's effort in the Senate to do the same. Bring you up to speed on where we are with Obamacare. The end of the federal fiscal year is September 30th. The new federal fiscal year begins October 1st. So if anything's going to be done about Obamacare to block its implementation, it has to be done before September 30th, or else Obamacare starts going into effect with the next federal fiscal year budget. The actual plan goes into effect in January, but the funding goes into effect October the 1st. If this is going to be blocked through defunding, it has to occur now. It has to occur by the end of September when Congress comes back from the August break. So this is critical that it's done, and this is why Heritage is calling for members of Congress to sign on to the letter by Representative Meadows, who's leading the effort in the House. I think this needs to go beyond just the members of the House. I think we need a statement from every single person running for Congress on where they stand on this issue. This is one of the critical issues facing us as Republicans in terms of how do we stand up against the Obama administration. The voters of America gave Republicans the majority in 2010 thanks almost entirely to the efforts of the Tea Party. They maintained it in 2012, even though they voted for President Obama to remain in office. We managed to keep the House. We have a divided House, and we have a duty to do what the folks have asked us to do. And one of the number one things across the board, Democrat and Republican, have said Obamacare is a bad thing. Stop it. It's killing us. I don't know how many of you saw the news today, but UPS put out the announcement they're going to have to eliminate the health insurance benefits of 15,000 of their current beneficiaries because they simply can't meet the added cost under Obamacare. Obamacare is driving premiums through the roof. It's putting all kind of new requirements on us, all kind of offenses to our liberties. We talked about that last night, that one of the provisions of Obamacare is that if you're receiving Medicaid, or for that matter, if you may be homeschooling your child, under Obamacare, the federal government can send federal agents to your house to inspect whether your home is healthy or not. And by healthy, that means psychologically healthy in their opinion, as well as physically healthy. These are some of the horrors that are there. The people elected the Republicans in the House to stop that. The only means that they have to stop it, because obviously to pass a law to repeal Obamacare entirely legislatively, we'd have to have a bill that passed the House, passed the Senate, and then was signed into law by the president. Well, right off the bat, we have Harry Reid and the Democrats in control of the Senate, so that's not going to happen. Secondly, if it did happen, we have President Obama in the White House. We know he would veto the law, and we don't have enough votes to overturn a veto. So the only way it's going to happen is with the specific power of the House to control spending. And that means the only way it can occur, the only way that the House can do what the people said is to say we're not going to fund it. And if that leads to a shutdown, then we have to be able to adjust to that. We have to set funding levels for all the other activities of the federal government. It takes a lot of work to get to that point. If we get to that point, it's going to take a lot of work to sustain it by doing things like insisting that the president sign and the Senate pass the Full Faith and Credit Act, which says that regardless of any type of funding challenges or shutdowns that we might have, that we continue to pay our Social Security benefits, that we continue to pay the principal and interest on our debt. And there are other reform pieces of legislation there that we can insist on too, that guarantees that our military is paid, that guarantees that our federal law enforcement personnel are paid, that our Border Patrol is paid. We can do those things in a shutdown, but it takes real leadership and it takes a concerted effort among House conservatives to make that happen. That's what Senator Lee has been trying to do in the Senate. That's what this letter by Mark Meadows has attempted to do in the House. I want to tell you tonight, I support that letter. If I were a member of Congress today, I would sign on and I would go for the fight. We have to stand up to an administration that's out of control, that's undoing the checks and balances that we have in our system, in which our founders intentionally pitted Congress against the president, against the courts, so that no one group, no one entity could become too powerful and too corrupt. And if that's the case, as we all know, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we have an administration that for the first time in U.S. history is crossing those boundaries right now, trampling the Constitution, the rule of law, and trampling the checks and balances built into our Constitution. And we have to stand up to it. The House has to stand. I support that. I think tonight we need to ask for all of our conservative bloggers, all our conservative newspapers, talk show hosts around the country to demand of every member in Congress, where do you stand on the Meadows letter? We'll know that simply by who signs and who doesn't. But we need to demand it of every candidate running for federal office this year, House and Senate. Where do you stand? Before we cast that vote, where do you stand? You know where I stand. Now, I make one reservation on that. We're not going to see that actual letter of demand until tomorrow. From everything I've read that's going to be in it, I would sign on to it. I want to wait and read the letter, and tomorrow we'll let you know that we are indeed signing on to it, at least as a candidate, so that you know where I stand before I go up there and vote, and you can make your vote accordingly. I think every candidate needs to meet that challenge, and if they won't, don't vote for them. I need your support in this race. If for any of you who haven't contributed yet, if you'll jump to our website at johnstoneforcongress.com, look at the donations page. We can use all the help we can get, because as you can tell, this is a real battle this year, not just to hold the House, not just to win back our 12th district seat, but to win back our party to conservative, solid, sound, fiscal conservative principles, and to restore the system of checks and balances, our rule of law, and the Constitution. If you'll send me, that's what I'll fight to do. Thank you for watching tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Remember, send your calls, your questions, and comments to John at johnstoneforcongress.com or Facebook or Twitter, and I'll love to cover them tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Thanks. God bless Georgia. God bless America, and good night.